about this comment, set a record for executive session.
It's all right, a little quicker, we couldn't get Mike to loud, that is.
Boy, it's an ugly old policeman sitting over
No, sir, I didn't say that.
there. Okay, let the record show that we're back in open session at 17 minutes after the hour of 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. No action to be taken. We did receive some advice and some word from the city council. Up next, we have consider revised Section 3 plan with the General Land Office.
We provided this in your packet. It's a requirement for the grants that we have through Waxman, and Wesley McPhail is the compliance officer with this Section 3. It's been rewritten, and Waxman is recommending that the city adopt the rewritten Section 3 guidelines. It's a requirement. It's not a, as he stated in the letter here, it's a compliance is mandatory, so.
Tommy, where are we at on that grant? My understanding, we were approved, but we haven't received the money yet, is that correct?
Correct. We started some of the environmental processes on, you do engineering, and you do environmental, and then you do several other things. The last I heard, possibly kick off in May, because we have environmental, and then we have some other tidbits that tie up, but we should be funded. Street overlays, there's $1 million in there in street overlays, and then there's $455,000 in drainage improvement. And the last I heard was May, so.
Councilman, these, there was a little, they come, they call, they even come in person and say, we're here, make sure you get your money, and it's all coming, and hey, this is fixing it, but it takes so long. To get, you first of all, you sign up for these things, and sometimes you get told to change your application completely or to withdraw it and resubmit it at a different time, and we do everything.
We've been pursuing this since I came back in January 2010, and we should get funding by this summer, but.
And I remember shortly after you came back, we sit in here with a meeting from the land office, and they were talking like we're gonna have it next month.
We went to Groveton, and that man over there, you remember
Yeah.
the emergency management? Boy, I thought they were gonna throw him out of the meeting. He said, where's the money? We've been waiting for 8 months, and we got people still living in FEMA trailers and everything. This was like 2 years ago, and he got pretty rowdy with them, but,
And what they've done at least once, it wasn't the land office, but who was it that was doing it at first, and then they turned around and had somebody else do it.
yeah, it went to HUD, and then it went
Yeah.
to
It's
rural
most,
rural
it's most
development, and then it went to
aggravating.
GLO. And
We had a
so-
meeting down here the other day where they came to talk to you about it, and I didn't even come down here, remember? Because I said, we mean you talk, so it's not gonna be anything. Well, and sure enough, it wasn't. Any other questions? We need a motion on that, to accept it. We have a motion to accept that revised Section 3 plan of the General Land Office. Moved to approve by Alton Scott, we have a second.
Second.
Second by Mitch McMillan. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? We have up next, consider the approval of the Jasper Police Department's annual contact report for 2012. Captain Hall.
Good evening. The annual report on racial profiles was conducted by Dr. Dale Carmen, as it has been a few years back. The council had asked to go back to his firm. He takes the stats and does a profile on them through the statistics, shows the requirements by the state, and puts it in a nice, pretty package for y'all and for the citizens of Jasper. Just so you have a copy, there'll be a copy here at the City Hall and at the library, which is required. It tells contacts, breaks it down by race, arrest, all that. So,
Gerald, is this something we do every year?
yes, sir, it's required.
Well, it's the first one I've ever seen, and I was impressed. I mean, I think, it seems to me to be a pat on the back for the police department.
It's a state requirement.
I would like to commend the police department for going out and having an independent firm to come and do this, instead of doing it in-house like it was. I think if you read the state wording on it and everything, the whole intention is to have somebody from outside to come in and look at this. And I commend you all for doing it.
Thank you, sir.
Do we need, is there anything we need to do, accept it, or?
Yeah, you have to bless it.
We
Okay.
have a motion.
We bless
have a
it or
motion to
accept it?
bless it.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, is that a motion to accept it or bless it? Second. Second by Randy, second by Alton Scott. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Let the record show there is none. Up next, the consider presentation from Hereford and Lynch, Sellers and Curtin, audit report for the fiscal year 2012. And for new council members, this is also something that is required by the state, outside firm to come in and audit the books of the city.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Tom Sellers, CPA with the firm of Hereford, Lynch, Sellers and Kirkham out of Conroe, Texas, and I'm here to present your audit report and financial statements for the year ended September 30th, 2012. If you'll take a look at the blue binder, I'm going to quickly take you through the highlights of the financial statements and the audit report. If you'll flip to page 4, and that's the auditor's opinion letter. And the city's receiving what we call an unqualified opinion, which is the highest form of assurance that a CPA firm can put on a set of financial statements. So that's the opinion that you want to see on your statements. Basically says that these numbers can be relied upon. If you'll flip to page 15, this is the city's statement of net assets, and this is a statement that's prepared on what we call the full accrual basis of accounting. It includes all the city's long-term assets and long-term liabilities. And it's divided into two types of funds, your governmental funds and your business type activity funds. Looking at the first column, the total assets for the governmental activities stand at $12,711,000. Your total liabilities are $7,186,279. The difference is your net assets of $5,525,187. In your next column is your business type activities. Those assets are $33,043,000. Liabilities of $2,946,593. Net assets of $30,097,241. Basically, what that statement tells us is that your net assets are positive, and that's what we want to see is the positive net assets. If you'll flip over to page 18, this is a balance sheet for the major funds for the city, and this is prepared on what we call the modified accrual basis of accounting. Takes a little bit more critical approach, looking at the city's assets and liabilities. Basically, the long-term assets and liabilities are excluded. Long-term liabilities are excluded. In your general fund, the total assets were $2,426,051. The liabilities were $1,858,177, leaving a fund balance or a difference between assets and liabilities of $567,874. Of that $567,874, $45,000 is set aside for inventories, $244,000 has a restriction from contributions on there. So that leaves a net fund balance unassigned for the general fund of $277,000 for the city. The Governmental Finance Officers Association recommends that number represent somewhere between 30 days and 90 days of expenditures, meaning that if no more revenues came into the city, how long could the city expend resources that they have on hand before having to look for other places to spend? Your fund balance represents about 16 days, so you're a little bit low in your fund balance on what general finance officers recommend or would like to see in that area. The next column is your debt service fund. Total assets of $2,117,000, liabilities of $169,000. So you have restricted debt, net asset, or fund balance that's restricted for debt payments of $1,948,196. If you flip over to page 20, the statement of revenues and expenditures again prepared on the modified accrual basis. For the general fund, you had total revenues of $5,018,000. You spent $6,064,681. That deficit was covered by transfers in from your utility funds of $1,075,377. So you actually did have an increase in your fund balance for the year of $29,035. In your debt service fund, the next column, you had revenues of $1,508,147, expenditures of $811,265, leaving excess revenues of $696,882 in your debt service fund.
Mr. Seller,
Yes.
when y'all were going through our expenditures, did you see anything in your opinion that was, way out of line or something that should be a red flag for us?
Not in your expenditures or anything. The only red flag is the fund balance that I talked about a little bit earlier.
It's just roughly inaccurate.
They play, it's a cat and mouse deal down here sometimes, because the money, budgeted in here, but it doesn't, on account receiver, it doesn't come in like it's supposed to. And so,
Well, if you look at your budget on the next page, on pages 22 and 23, your adopted original budget, you had planned on increasing fund balance by $12 for the year. So you actually increased it $29.35 on your final numbers, so you were quite a bit better off than what your original budget was.
that 240-something thousand back there, I have to ask questions when I think of them, because I won't think of them later, I'm not too smart. But that back there on the restricted contribution, 244,395, Denise, is that school money?
The school, $244,242.30.
I thought that already been distributed.
Now, remember we talked about not
Oh, that's right,
distributing
okay.
it to
I'm
their
sorry,
percentage.
until they got it done. Okay. Go ahead, sir.
On page 24 is your statement of assets on the proprietary funds, and these are always prepared on a full accrual basis, recognizing all the assets, all the liabilities. Total assets for the water and sewer funds stood at $20,007,947 against liabilities of $1,553,158, leaving total net assets for the water and sewer fund of $18,454,789. As you can see, most of those are invested in capital assets for the water and sewer funds, so your unrestricted fund balance there is $290,000. Your light and power fund had revenues, or assets of $13,228,820 and liabilities of $1,586,368, leaving net assets of that fund $11,642,452. Next page, page 25, is the revenue statement for water and sewer fund. Total operating revenues in that first column were $2,657,494. You had operating expenses of $3,026,805, which included depreciation of $935,000 on the system. So it actually had an operating loss of $369,311. In your light and power fund, your revenues were $12,789,367. expenditures of $12,219,897, with a profit operating income of $569,470 for that fund. If you put the two together, roughly an operating income of $200,000 for the year. Rest of the information are notes and supplemental information in the financial statements. Part of the audit, we look at the internal controls over the city's financial reporting system, and we didn't find any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in the control system for the city's internal control system, so that's a good thing. Is there any questions I might be able to answer on the audit report? I think you got a good audit report, good clean set of books.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody have any questions? And here, okay. Okay, consider up next, street and name assignment.
You need to accept.
Okay. Do we have a motion to accept the outside audit report as read?
Motion to accept.
Motion by Mr. Scott, second by Hazel. Any discussion? Any opposition? Or any, okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Measure passes. Okay, we have up next, consider street name assignment. Tell us the history on this, Tommy.
This is a little road, I guess, country road up just past Catfish Cabin that goes, turns off as you're coming back in town and turns and goes up into those trailers right there. James and Francis Jones, I believe, are the owner's names. And it's county road, but you can't have a county road in the city limits, so we're requesting, the owner's requesting that it be changed to Francis Lane. It will not carry any city maintenance. We won't do, it's a private drive, but we don't need, we need it named, so. it
Are
can-
they the only people living on that road?
Sir,
Are they the only ones on that road?
I believe there's 3 trailers. I hadn't, it's up past Mom's, I go by there all the time, but I believe there's 3 trailers up in there, but they own the property. It's their rental, trailer rental, little
Okay.
trailer house rental area. And like I say, it will not carry any maintenance, or we will not put a maintainer on or anything. It's just for mailing purposes for a 911 address or whatever, so, and it'll go on the city maps and everything.
Do we have a motion?
I make a motion.
Motion by Hazel,
Second.
second by Alton Scott. Any discussion? All those in favor of naming the county road Francis Lane, say aye. Any opposition? Let the record show it passed unanimously. Review and consider security cameras in the park. Tommy?
We went out for quotes, to kind of get a budgetary figure on the cameras. We went with LRG and we walked the area. Y'all have a proposal in front of you that there's six cameras for Sandy Creek Park, 3 for Kiwanis, 3 for Bird, and 3 for Caradine. And they come in at like, the cameras and hardware were like $48,000, and then we put the rest in because we're gonna have to set some poles on the other end of Sandy Creek. And we're gonna have Wi-Fi at some of the areas to transmit back to a central recorder or whatever. But anyhow, that was the budgetary. If council so chooses to go on with this, we'll go through a bidding process because it's over a $50,000 limit. But we were requested to get budgetary consideration, and that's what you have in front of you tonight.
Does that mean that you're saying this will be surely not $60,000 a year?
It's $60,000 to get into it, and then you'll have the ongoing expense of the Wi-Fi and what have you.
All of the recording of the video will take place at someplace other than the park.
Yes.
So it won't be anything down there for people to tear up, except something that's high.
The only ongoing expense will be the Wi-Fi hotspots to transmit the video back to a central location. And then you'll have ongoing, I know enough about them to be dangerous, but you'll have ongoing DVD cost and everything, correct, Gary?
Just maintenance on the cameras and on the internet reach location.
All the hardware and everything's included in that price, and there will be some payment prices, installation and stuff like that. But it'll all be, come back down here to the city hall, and be stored here, and also be monitored, can be monitored at the PD.
Is there money in the budget for this?
This is a non-budgetary item.
So how are we gonna pay for it? Denise?
You would have to take it out of reserve, I mean, out of existing fund balance from, last year, Light and Power's the only one that's really got any money that's sitting there that's not being used. I mean, there's no money on the general fund operational side for $65,000 excess for this year. So, I mean, if you choose to go forward with it, then we just need a
Bid it and bring it back to
bid
you for.
a motion, and then tell me where you want the money to come from. Like, you know how before we have taken it from the SMR PA excess?
Well, we've got some SRMPA money coming,
Right.
okay? And it's not here yet. When do you think we'll have that done?
Tuesday.
Well, they're gonna approve it Tuesday, but will we have it when?
They'll wire it, send it.
Okay, so what does the council wanna move forward with going out for bids on this?
The only other alternative is to wait and put it in the budget cycle as we consider it in
And so, but that would mean that it couldn't be done until after October the 1st.
June and then consider, done in October. But
We have council motion,
Yeah, I make a motion that we go for it.
okay, council? Alton Scott makes a motion that we go ahead and move forward with the bidding of this equipment, and then we'll decide how to pay for it later. Okay, is that a second by Hazel? Is there any other discussion?
Yeah, I wanna know, was this the recommendation of LRG, this amount of cameras?
yes. You have to, there's so many, shadow areas or whatever, you have to have several to cover, because if you just had one on this entrance, then there would be a blind spot on the back side or whatever. We walked all the parks with the exception of,
Is it
Well, wait a minute, Caradine was one of the main one that Alton Scott, Councilman Scott brought this forth to.
We looked at the map on it, we actually didn't go up there to it that day because we run out of daylight. Chris actually brought in about 4 guys from Freeport, from their home company, and we went through all the parks, and we looked at maps of actually Caradine, and he still suggested 3 cameras to start out with. But the equipment is, each one of the equipment can go up to 12 cameras. So if it's needed to go up later on, expand the system, it is expandable.
Okay.
Gerald, how much traffic do you guys get in the PD from the parks? I mean, is that something, that I know we had an incident this past year, up at Caradine, which was, concerning, but,
We get,
But- I mean, y'all can do a lot of business in the parks?
well, we do more in the summertime than we do in the winter, but normally you have 5 to 6 incidents a year that would be, where they vandalize and tear stuff up, or spray paint, or something to that effect. We don't have a whole lot of really major like we had this past year.
Do you think that the installation of these cameras and people knowing that they're there, will that reduce this vandalism that we're having in the parks and the bathrooms and everything?
Do you think it'd be beneficial to have this?
Yes, I do.
Do you think the cost outweighs any?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Adverse.
you start buying them commodes and faucets and stuff, they're expensive, they add up in a hurt. And they have to replace them pretty regularly.
Well, I think the safety of people utilizing the park is more important than the cost right
That's
now.
just gonna be around the bathroom areas, each one of the park, not the walking track, no, that's just gonna be around the bathroom areas.
Well, it'd be almost impossible just to cover every area of the park.
No, it would be.
You just gotta do it where you think so.
That's the parking lot here, and the bathroom, the parking lot on that end. Kiwanis, the parking lot, and, well, actually Kiwanis pick up quite a bit because it's a smaller park. And Bird Park too, and Caradine, it'd be like the tennis courts and the bathroom area and the pavilion area, pick up Caradine.
I got another question though. You're gonna add Wi-Fi in the parks. Will this be open so where people could use it?
They'd have to have the code.
We'd have to have ours on its own, for it, because it's gonna take so much of the, data that's gonna be sending back for it.
I understand you don't want to crowd him.
But
Okay.
that's something we looked at to try to open up the park later on.
Do we have, we've had motion second, do we have a vote? Is all those in favor say aye?
And this is a motion to,
Put it
get
out for
bids?
bid.
Yeah, okay, I'll vote aye.
Okay, aye?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, let the record show that it passed unanimously. Being no other items that can be discussed or voted on the agenda, we stand adjourned at 6:44 p.m. Thank everyone for coming. Yeah.